So far in my World of Warcraft journey, I have leveled 3 entire characters, my warrior, my mage, and my beautiful druid. Each having their own entirely different leveling experience. I also decided to try out the horde side of things with my rogue, which has been great so far. However, we have put the horde adventure on pause for now because I recently gained the need for a hunter. But what could I possibly need a hunter so badly for? Well, that's a story for another time. So for now, it's time to return to the Alliance once more as I attempt to level my first ever hunter alongside my trusty pet, Gerald. Last time was a very big video because we managed to achieve one of, if not the most important milestone in any leveling journey. We explored through Dustwallow Marsh and Desolace, and of course ran Scarlet Monastery way more times than we probably should have, and we ended it all with a little run of Razorfen Downs. Doing that allowed us to get level 40 and purchase our first mount, who still needs a name by the way. But for today, I will set the simple goal of reaching level 48. So I'll be totally honest, this is a part of the leveling journey that I just wasn't looking forward to, because on all of my previous characters, going from level 40 to 45, I always seem to run out of things to do. I mean, that might just be me and my horrible habit of leaving zones early, but surely it can't be this bad. So I picked out of the very few zones that I still had left to quest in, and I went with the Badlands. So I have mixed opinions about the Badlands. To me, it feels kind of unfinished. Like, there should be more to this zone, but there just isn't. So to start this zone off, I quickly stopped by this small pit in the ground. We needed to clear out a load of Shadowforged dwarves before picking up a note from the floor, which we had to return to a couple of prospectors just up the hill, and they offered us the bulk of the quests from this zone. So the first on that short list is to retrieve Rydal's lucky pick, and you know, every time I've done this quest before, it was a couple mobs and that was it done. However, this time was not the same, because I went back to the pit and cleared out every mob there, and then had to go up to the fortress and cleared out every mob there as well. And what should have taken a few minutes actually took 15. I then went to the very northeast of the zone to pick up a supply crate, which we were able to just grab and get out since someone had just cleared all of the mobs that spawn around it. So I returned to Rydal to turn in the quests, and in perfect WoW Classic fashion, sent us right back to where we just came from. We needed to slay some ogres and collect scrap metal, so I cleared out every single ogre in the area, and even then, I still only collected 5 out of the 7 that we needed, but nothing a quick layer swap can't fix. So I turned that in, and well, these two didn't seem to offer me anything else for the zone, so I started moving further into the Badlands, and along the way, I picked up a quest that wanted buzzard wings, and the buzzards didn't really spawn in any specific location, and was more something that I could passively do as we did other things. And the only other NPC in the zone offering quests was this little gnome, and he wanted small stone shards, but he also wanted frost oil, and given the price of frost oil currently, I wasn't going to pay for that. So instead, I began murdering some elementals. Now usually, this quest is very heavily contested, so when I saw tens of them roaming around, I was quite pleased. But very quickly, there was a party of horde and no more elementals to slay. I even swapped layer and once again was greeted with a party of horde, so instead I decided to just run around and kill some buzzards. But again, I was just really struggling to find any. There was just too many people here for my liking, so I decided to leave the zone, since I thought I could maybe come back at night since it would be quieter at that time. Now if you look at the map, you might say that I'm being a bit dramatic, since there seems to be loads of quests here. Well yeah, but those are all for the Uldaman dungeon, which I would actually be down to do at some point, but we weren't high enough yet. So for now, I hearthed my way back to Stonewind and started thinking about where to go next. So since I was already here, I decided to do a quick bag clear and turn in the Razorfen Downs quest, which gave us this lovely Vanquisher's sword, which would give us plus 28 attack power, which is quite good. So to accompany that, I decided to purchase myself a sword by the name of the Butcher, before I hopped on a bird and began making my way over to Arathi, for like the 4th time now. And just like in the last video, I decided to attempt the escort quest for hints of a new plague. And you'll never believe it, but this time we didn't get swarmed by orcs and the Forsaken patrol didn't spawn directly on top of us. And we were able to get to and slay Apothecary Jorel without any issues at all. So 2 videos ago, I mentioned that I remembered there being quests to the northeast of this zone. Well, I found them. Turns out they are part of the Princess questline, and what we needed to do was kill these kobolds and loot a moat of Misrael, and this was an annoying quest. First of all, it would help if they dropped the bloody thing, but not only that, this quest was very contested from both Horde and Alliance. So I spent a good 40-ish minutes just running in and out of this cave, swapping layers as I went until I was finally able to get everything that I needed. So I went to turn in the quest, which I first had to clear out some water elementals, and then got killed by a max level player. I always wonder what goes through people's heads that kill players half their level. Like, surely they don't think they're good at the game, right? But the follow-up quest, we needed to obtain 3 different keys, which we could get from stones surrounded by different kinds of elementals. So I collected all 3 and I turned it in. And unfortunately, the follow-up quest was an elite quest, so I skipped over it for now, and instead went over to this ogre-filled cave. Quite simply, we needed to venture all the way into the deepest part of the cave and locate an ogre mini-boss, Korgresh Coldrage. We take him down and we are able to get our quest item, the Wand of Invocation. I then had a little look at my map again, and I noticed some quests that I hadn't seen before. I mean, they looked like they weren't even on the map, and that intrigued me, so I ran up and down trying to find a way over to these quests, and turns out we had to go all the way behind Stormguard Keep, and I don't know, something about this little section felt special. Like, I'm not sure how to describe it, but I made my way through, and I was greeted with a large docked ship, and something about this part was cool, man, I don't know, but turns out 2 of their other ships had crashed into the reef, but it's not just reefs, and we needed to explore what it actually was. But first was a quick quest where we need to escort and protect a goblin NPC whilst he did something. Now, subscribers of the channel will know just how much I hate water quests. I just don't like them. You're slow, you drown, and I can't ever tell how far away something actually is to me. Luckily though, I did come across a friendly warlock who granted me 10 minutes of water breathing, so we better make the most of it, right? And I suppose this wasn't too bad. We had to kill a load of Naga and then loot elven gems. Simple. However, the other quest here was just not as simple. We needed to dive into these sunken ships and collect some paper, which wouldn't be too bad if I could A, see, and B, breathe. And it was just annoying and quite fidgety. But after a good 20 minutes, we were able to get that done and could now turn in the quests. And sadly, that was it for Arathi. Like, truly this time, we're done with it. However, I did have a quest to turn in at South Shore, so I decided to do that, and I could then head over and into Alterac Mountains. Once we had landed in South Shore, I turned in the previously mentioned quest and accepted whatever I could for Alterac Mountains. I then went AFK on a chair for 10 minutes, so before we went into Alterac, I decided to stop and do the only quest I had left for Hillsbrad, which ended up being a complete waste of time, because the mobs were grey, meaning I got no XP, and I didn't even finish the quest, which means I got no XP. So I moved into Alterac itself and began with slaying some syndicate mobs. Now, Alterac is a weird zone for me, because I feel like it almost blends in with Hillsbrad, and is another zone that I feel like could have a lot more done with it. Whilst I was here though, I came across a warlock that was obviously here to do the same quest as me, so we teamed up to do it together. And this was quite the simple quest. We just needed to kill shadow mages and also collect Alterac signet rings off of their corpses. So we spent quite a while actually running in and out of these small rundown buildings, and we took down a mini boss, Baron Vardus, for a quest that I wasn't on, but doing that got everything we needed. We then said our goodbyes and we ran in the opposite direction. I went off a bit to where all of these ogres are running around to collect dirty knucklebones, whatever that is, and I gotta say, this part of Alterac specifically feels like you're high up in the mountains. I know Dunmorrow technically gameplay is, but it doesn't have the same feeling. I just really like this area. I then ran to the very back of Alterac, which was a fantastically crafted hilly area. And again, I just feel like there could have been more done with it. I needed to collect the head of Nagas, which unfortunately I just witnessed being killed, so I had to wait for him to respawn. And while I was clearing out the house that was there just for the sake of it, and I noticed that a shaman was killing the newly spawned Nagas. So I'm sorry, Voltjin, it just had to be done. But don't worry, my friend, I will finish off the kill for you. What a good citizen I am. With nothing else left for me here, I returned to South Shore and turned in the quests. And unfortunately, this was a pretty big wall, because there was literally nothing else for me to do. There was some stuff in Stranglethorn Vale, but for the bulk of the quests, I would need one more level. So I thought that since we are now level 41, Alderman would be perfect for us. So I returned to the Badlands and grabbed every quest I could for the dungeon. And I made my way over to the entrance, and I waited and waited. And well, after sitting outside the dungeon like a lost puppy for 30 minutes, I unfortunately gave up, which means I've only got one more option left for leveling: Scarlet Monastery. And at this point, I was honestly so sick of Scarlet Monastery, and the only one I could stomach anymore was Cathedral. And we were relatively close to level 42, so I just kind of hoped that it would be enough. But we get to the end, and we just aren't quite there. I really didn't want to do it again, so I thought, screw it, we will get the rest in Stranglethorn Vale. So first off, I went to finish a quest that I couldn't last time due to levels, and this was another really annoying one, because we needed to collect 2 pieces of paper, which doesn't sound too hard, except they were located right in the middle of a giant ring of mobs, and no matter how hard I tried, I couldn't seem to just pull one of them at a time, and these guys hit hard. But after countless attempts and deaths, eventually Gerald volunteered against his will to be a sacrifice, and I was able to collect my quest item, and we could move on to something else. And I went with the Akira's Reed quest. Very simply, we needed to roam around this area and kill some Naga, and they might drop the item we need, which really wasn't too bad, apart from the fact that it took me half an hour to complete. Now after this, I actually was done with Stranglethorn Vale. The only quest I had left was the Singing Crystal Shard quest, which I stated last time I absolutely hated. So I now had literally one option left, and that was to grind out Scarlet Monastery or Razorfen Downs until I was level 45. So that's what I did. I hopped back into Scarlet Monastery Armory, and I just didn't want to do it anymore. We had already done it like 20 times, and I really just wanted to go to a fresh, new zone and explore until I couldn't anymore. So after our armory, I once again went into Cathedral, and after those 2 runs, we just didn't really get that much XP, and well, I just ended up logging off for the day. But when I logged on the following day, something very mysterious happened. Something unexplainable. We had somehow leveled to 45 overnight. How could this happen? Such mysteriousness. A blessing from Sargeras himself. But I wasn't going to waste this blessing. I was going to use it to its fullest potential. So I headed straight for Tanaris. But in all seriousness, now that we were level 45, mysteriously, I was motivated to play again. I was excited to have so much to do. Now I knew that Zul'Farrak wasn't too far away, so I quickly made a stop at the Mirage Raceway to pick up what is probably the most important quest yet, the Gazrilla quest, which would reward us with a trinket that would increase mount speed by 3%. No other item in the game does something like that apart from the gloves enchant, so getting it would be one of my top priorities. Obviously, first step is to feed Gerald and get started with killing. I decided to start off with the Waste Wander quests, having us kill bandits and thieves, and also collecting water pouches. Now I don't know about you, but I really like Tanaris, which is strange, because it's literally just a desert. There's nothing massively special about it, but still, I've always really enjoyed questing here. Maybe it's the variety of different enemies or something, I'm really not sure. But whilst I was here, I also happened to come across Caliph's Scorpid Sting, a mini-boss that was always a pain in the ass to find. But since I was solo, I had to quickly nuke down Scorpion Sting himself before inevitably falling over to the ads that he comes with. I then went over to the west to quickly do the water survey quest, and I remember that last time I did it, a bunch of high level mobs spawned on top of me. So using that knowledge, I was able to get a head start and run away from the mobs. I then made a quick stop at Gadgetzan to turn in the quest so that I could get started with the next part of the Waste Wonder quests. Now the entire time that I had been working on my quests, I had myself listed on the LFG tool for a run of Zul'Farrak, and as I was getting started on my next quest, that's when I got my invite. So I halted what I was doing and I made my way over to the dungeon entrance. Now I love Zul'Farrak. It feels like the end of the mid-game dungeons, but not only that, the XP for a single run is pretty good, especially if you decide to do all of the graveyards, which this group actually decided to do after taking out Witch Doctor Zumra. And after we did that, we moved on to doing the hardest part of the entire dungeon, which is of course the stairs, where basically we get swarmed with hundreds of mobs for a few minutes, and to be honest, you just gotta let the mage do mage things here. And lastly, we move up towards the final boss, Ukor's Sandskull. Now unfortunately, we weren't able to go and kill Gazrilla for our trinket quest since no one in this group had the mallet to spawn him in. So I listed myself back on the LFG tool and made my way back into Tanaris. So I quickly went back and I finished up the Waste Wonder quests before heading over to the very east beach for the pirate quests. Now originally, I wasn't sure if that was a great idea because this place is always very contested from both factions, and that's probably just because of how long the quests here take to complete. But we needed to kill a load of different kinds of pirates, so before I had to move into the compound itself, I spent as long as I could on the outskirts, and well, we managed to get into another Zul'Farrak group, so I quickly finished off every mob outside of the compound and once again made my way over to Zul'Farrak. And yeah, I forgot to hit record, but it's not that big of a deal really. Our run was pretty much the same as the last time. However, I did record the most important part, which was the Gazrilla part, because someone in this group actually had the mallet. But before that, we obviously had to clear out the area because there were a lot of loose mobs running around. But after we had done that, we hit the gong thing and the Gazrilla menacingly makes his way out of the water. Now I've only ever done this boss as a melee DPS, which means I always had to worry about the massive knock-up ability that he does. So it was nice this time to just sit back and watch my allies getting thrown in the air. But we get him down and we can loot our lovely quest item. So before I headed back into Tanaris to finish things off, I wasted no time in turning in our trinket quest. Now I know that 3% doesn't sound like a lot, but I remember a while back someone explained the math to me and it was something like you get there 45% faster when you have the trinket equipped. Not sure if that's true, but regardless, it's an essential item for any character to have. So of course, I once again returned to the pirate compound, and I started off by clearing out this small house, which was great because it was completely uncontested, and doing that gave us a good amount of progression on the kill quests, but also allowed us to get the Stoli shipment quest done. And the next 30 minutes was literally nothing but running around killing different pirates and looting their hats. That was until I was mostly done, but I still needed Firebeard's head. And well, I don't have friends, so I asked a nearby rogue if he would like to do it together. But he had already done it, but he offered to help me anyway. Our plan was to nuke the boss down and then run away. But by the might of Gerald himself, we were able to get them all down a lot easier than both of us expected. So thank you, Mechrozom, you have helped me a ton. All that was left to do now was to turn in the quests. Now, I know that there are still a lot of quests to do here, but hear me out. They are too high for me currently, and I promise we will come back this time. But before I left, I decided to have one more run of Zul'Farrak. Not for loot, but just for XP. And man, this was an XP run and a half, because we were killing everything and anything. We even went all the way behind Gazrilla and killed random mobs that I didn't even know were there. But I'm not complaining, free XP is free XP. Now, since that we are done with Tanaris now, I decided to go to another one of my favorite zones. If you know me, I love the natural green zones. Trees, water, giant gorillas that want to stomp you into a pile of mush. I love it all. But obviously, we don't have the flight point yet. So I purchased myself a portal to Darnassus, and I could then catch a bird to Desolate. Feralas. Now I do quite like travelling from one zone to another. I get to see the zones that I previously leveled in. However, Feralas is just not it. I just wanted to get into Feralas as quick as possible, and taking those first few steps into the zone, I knew that I was going to have a lot of fun here. The transition from a grey desert into a beautiful, lush jungle is quite dramatic. So I took myself down the zone and patiently waited for the boat to arrive and take me to Feathermoon Stronghold. So once here, we went through all the normal stuff, collecting quests and getting started. I wanted to first stick to the quests that were on the island, so I had to visit these ruins and take a quest back to the original NPC, which then took us on a journey of Naga killing. So since we were just alone in this island, I thought that this would be the perfect time to unboon my buffs that I had gathered on my journey around the world. And well, I definitely don't regret that decision, because we were just an absolute machine. Pair my world buffs with the fact that the mobs were lower level than me, we were like 3-shotting every mob. I then turned that quest in and then had to venture to the very back island and into a cave. And there was a couple other people here, so obviously I invited them to join my group, but they declined. So I stole the mini boss from them. But with that now done, it was time to move to the mainland of Feralas. So off I went on the boat once more, and we had a pretty decent chunk of stuff to get done. So I started with killing water elementals, and of course the very strange quest where we have to shrink down giants and then kill them. And they were a little bit high for us, but you know, the hunter. And after a good 15 minutes of running up the west coast, killing basically anything that came into my line of sight, we hit level 47, which means only one more level to go. And well, I had slaughtered basically everything up at the northern side, so I began moving south a bit, which was convenient since I had a quest to turn in down there anyway. And the other thing that was down here was actually one of the Tanaris quests. We had to kill rogue Veil Screechers and then use an item on their body and collect their spirit. I then found the random quest that I had down here, which turned out to be a crashed rowboat. And I did think about returning to Feathermoon again to turn in, but to be honest, I liked looking at my quest log and seeing nothing but quest complete. So instead, I ventured further into the zone until I came across the Feral Scar Yetis. And this was a very simple quest. Kill the Yetis and steal their hide. And I know that skinners actually get quest items from skinning. It's a shame I'm not a skinner then. I then headed over to the Gorduni Ogre area. And this was a quest that I wasn't looking forward to, since I know for a fact that the shamans never spawned. So I made sure to prioritize them first, and I think I got it done in record time. All that was left now was to return to Feathermoon Stronghold to turn in. And what did I tell you? Isn't that just a beautiful sight? Now for the second round of quests, we definitely didn't have as much to do this time, but to start it off, I went north and into this Yeti infested cave, and this was practically the exact same as the first Yeti quest. Kill Yetis and take their hide. Now that was all of the Feathermoon quest completed, so I decided to venture deeper into the zone until I came across a couple of night elf NPCs who wanted to free the sprite darters, and there was a lot of these mobs, but since we had the help of the NPCs, it actually wasn't too bad. We could then unlock the door and set the little dragon freaks free, and the follow-up quest wanted us to run around and slay more of the Grim Totem, because if killing them and releasing their cargo wasn't enough, the night elves now just wanted to slaughter them for fun. And to be fair, so did I. And the follow-up quest wanted me to go to Darnassus, but I wasn't about to do that right now, and instead moved further into the zone until I came across the bug hive that we needed to go inside of and turn in the quest. And well, that was it. Our quest log was filled with nothing but quest completed text. So I returned to Feathermoon for one last time to turn in, and I even went all the way to Darnassus to turn in the quest that I had picked up earlier. And well, once that was done, we were so close to level 48 that I thought it would just be a bit of a waste to start a new zone. So I ended up calling it a day and logging out. I hope you all enjoyed today's video, because I enjoyed making it. I always do. First things first, lads, we did it. We made it to 10,000 subscribers. I said that I wanted to do it by the end of the year, and well, there's still 4 months left. So I just wanted to say thank you. You guys have been incredibly supportive of the channel, and I absolutely did not think that we would ever get this far. It still blows my mind that so many of you guys enjoy my silly little videos. I started it off as just a hobby, and we've somehow grown it into one of the greatest little communities on YouTube. But 10k is just the start. We will continue to grow the channel together. And hey, maybe 15k by the end of the year, who knows. The other thing is I just wanted to ask, how is the video? Are you guys still enjoying the longer style of videos? Last time I did my best to make it a nice long video since I know a lot of you prefer it that way, and I've also done that for this video as well. So feedback on that and anything else is always greatly appreciated. Remember, like, subscribe, whatever else. I really don't know how to end these videos anymore, I'm going to be totally honest. But anyway, I think that's enough yapping for now. I hope you all have a wonderful rest of your day, and I will see you all later.